Hello pals, welcome to another tutorial. So in today's tutorial we are going to be making this double-breasted short collar blazer. So I'm going to be teaching you how to make this short collar blazer for a big size person as well as an average size person. So if this is what you're interested in, you want to continue watching this video, and let's get started. So we are going to start with the drafting of the back pattern first. So this is going to be the starting line. So the first thing you want to do now is to mark your half length measurement. So I'm going to be marking that here. So after that, you are going to be marking your shoulder to hip measurement. So if your blazer is not long to your hip line, so you are just going to mark your blazer length. But if your blazer is as long as your hip line, so you are going to just mark your shoulder to hip measurement. So for me, the length of my blazer, I want it to come down 2 inches below my hip line. So I've just marked my shoulder to hip measurement, and now I'm going to be going down by 2 inches to mark the blazer length. So you don't have to have these two. So if your blazer length is shorter than your hip line, after marking your waistline, just mark your blazer length after that, and that will be all. But if your blazer length is longer than your shoulder to hip line, so that's when you are going to be needing or these two other lines. I hope you understand. So mark your waistline, mark your blazer length, or mark your waistline, mark your blazer length, and your shoulder to hip measurements. So now we are going to be taking the neck measurement. So I'm going to be using 3.5 by 1 inch. Don't forget we are drafting the back part first. So I'm using 3.5 because I'm making it for a big size person. So if you are making it for an average size person, you are going to be using 3 inches by 1 inch. So you are going to be marking 3 inches by the side and come down by 1 inch. So this is a blazer. There's not going to be a zipper allowance at this back part. So now what you want to do is to take your shoulder measurement. So place your tape at the starting line here. Divide your shoulder measurement into 2. So after dividing that into 2, I have 9 inches. Now add half inch to it because this is a blazer. So you add half inch to your shoulder measurement. Now come down by 1 inch and then connect this one to your neckline. So this is your shoulder slope. Now from this shoulder slope, you are going to be getting your armhole depth. So to get that, you are going to be dividing your bust measurement into 6, and then you are going to add 1.5 to it. So after dividing the bust measurement into 6 and adding 1.5, so I'm just going to mark what it gives me here. So now I'm going to be marking a straight line across that point, and this line is going to be the chest line. So I'm going to label it as a chest line. Now from the shoulder slope, I'm going to connect to this chest line, and this is my armhole depth. So what I'm going to do next is to divide this armhole depth into 2. So if you find it difficult to locate your middle, just fold your tape into 2 like this, and you are going to locate the center. So at the center here, you are going to be going in by 1/4 of an inch. So I cannot see the 1/4 of an inch with my tape because it has the iron part. So I want to mark the 1/4 from 1 inch. So I just mark 1/4 of an inch here basically. So now on your chest line, you are going to take your bust measurements. So divide your bust measurement into 4 and then mark it out. Now you are going to get your curve, and you are going to be connecting these 3 points together for your armhole. So after connecting this, now what you want to do next is to take away the back bulge. So on your waistline, you are going to come in at this part by 3/4 of an inch. You are going to be taking out 3/4 of an inch. So now you are going to connect this upward towards your chest line like this, and you are also going to be connecting it towards the hip line like this. So after doing this, you are going to be placing your dart measurement. So for your dart measurement, you're going to place it on the waistline as well. So you're going to be using your bust span divided by 2. Your bust span is also your nipple to nipple measurement. So you're going to divide that by 2. So for my client, dividing is 8 inches. Our bust span is 8 inches, divided by 2 is 4 inches. So I'm marking it on the waistline, on the chest line, and also on my blazer length line. And now I'm going to be connecting all these points together with my ruler in a straight line, like to form a straight line. just like this. So now the waistline, you are going to be taking your actual dart now. So you are going to be taking half of an inch on both sides for the dart intake. And now on your chest line, come down by 1 inch. So from this half inch that you took on the waistline for your dart, connect it to this 1 inch like this. Now you're also going to be connecting towards the hip line. So but you're going to come up from your hip line by 3 inches before you connect. So now you're going to connect from the waistline to these 3 inches that you came up by. So the next thing you want to do now is to locate your shoulder dart as well. So you are going to be finding the middle of your shoulder part. Now you are going to mark the center. Then after marking the center, you are going to be connecting it to the chest line like this. So you just want to smoothen this part so that you don't have a sharp edge there. So after doing this now, what you want to do next is to take your side measurement. So you are going to divide your bust measurement into 4, mark that, and now you are going to be adding half inch for ease allowance, because this is a blazer, you don't want it to be too tight on your client. So now you are going to come to the waistline as well and divide the waist measurement into 4. So what you get, you are going to mark it. Now you are going to be adding half of an inch for the ease allowance as well. And after marking the half of an inch for ease, you are going to measure this dart intake on your waistline and you are going to be placing it back. So I have 1 inch there and I've just placed it back. Next thing is to go to your hip line. So now you are going to divide your hip line into 4 as well. You are going to mark whatever that gives you and you are going to be adding half of an inch for ease allowance. So but for me, in the case of this my client, I don't, because she's not curvy, so instead of adding half of an inch, I want to add 1 inch just so that it will not look too firm on her hip. So it's going to give her more like an imaginary curve. So but you don't have to do this, you just need to add half of an inch on your client. Except you also want to give, once your client does not want the hip part to be so firm on her. So whatever it is that you have on your hip line is what you are going to be marking on your blazer length as well. So now I'm just going to connect it together, everything together like this. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So I've not added any seam allowance to it. We are going to be adding the same allowance while cutting on the fabric. The only allowance we added is the dart allowance and ease allowance. So now this is the center back and this is the side back. So we are going to be drafting the front part. So the first thing you are going to do is to mark 5 inches above your pattern paper like this. So I already have it marked, so I'm just going to draw a straight line across it. The next thing is to mark another 5 inches downward this way. So we are going to be using this for the collar parts and also for the overlapping parts, but you are going to be understanding it better. Just let's keep this aside for now. So we are going to be keeping this part aside, and also this front part we are also going to be keeping it aside. So for now, where we are going to be working on is going to be the middle part. So that is where we are going to be working on. So now this is going to be the starting line and we are going to be taking all our measurements inside here. So now I'm going to bring your tape and then you are going to be taking your measurements from here, from this starting line. So the first measurement you want to take now is the bust point. Remember, we are drafting the front part now. So we are going to be taking the bust point, then the under bust. The under bust measurement, you are going to mark that as well. Then you are going to take the half length measurement. Then after that, you are going to take your shoulder to hip measurement or your blazer length. If your blazer length is not long enough to your hip line, then if your blazer length is longer than your hip line, then after your shoulder to hip measurement, take your blazer length. So for me, my blazer length is 2 inches below my hip line. So now go ahead and label these lines accordingly. So now we are going to be start taking our neck measurements from here. So just like what we use for the back, we are going to be using 3.5 by 3.5 because this is for a big size person. So if you are making for an average size person, you are going to be using 3 inches by 3 inches. So now I'm going to get my curve and then connect it together. So the next thing you want to do is to take your shoulder measurement. So I'm going to divide the shoulder measurement into two. After dividing it into two, you are going to be adding half of an inch to it, just like you did to the back part. Now come down from that point by 1 inch, then connect it to your neck for your shoulder slope. Now from this shoulder slope, now get your armhole depth. So use the same measurement you use for the back. So your bust measurement divided by 6, and then you add 1.5 to it. That will give you your armhole depth. So now draw a straight line across this point, and this new line is going to be the chest line. So connect from your shoulder slope to this chest line. Now this is your armhole depth. So now locate the middle of this armhole depth. So fold your tape like this if you get confused about the middle. Now at this center, now go in by half of an inch. Then on your chest line, divide your bust measurement into 4. Mark it out. Now connect with your curve for the 3 points. And so note that for this middle that we came in by half of an inch, for the back part we went in by 1/4 of an inch. So this is the front part. That's why we are coming in by half of an inch. So you want to take note of that. So now draw your curve, and the next thing we are going to be doing is to place our dart. So on the waistline, you are going to use half of your bust span measurement. That's your nipple to nipple measurement. So in this case, half of it is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark it on the waistline, on the bust point line, and also on the blazer length line. Now I'm going to connect this together in a straight line. So on the waistline, take half of an inch on both sides for the dart. Now connect that to the bust point like this on both sides, and then from the waistline you are going to be connecting towards the hip line, but come up by 3 inches from your hip line before you connect it to the hip line. So now you are connecting from your waist to that 3 inches you came up by. So now what you want to do next is to come to your shoulder line, and now you want to divide your shoulder line into 2. So this is the shoulder. You are going to locate the middle here, and when you get the middle, you are going to mark it. Now you are going to get your ruler and connect from this middle to your bust point, just like this. So the next thing you want to do now is to take your side measurements. So you want to take your side measurements like this. Divide your bust measurement into 4. Mark it, then add half of an inch for your ease allowance. Now go to your waistline. Divide your waist measurement into 4 as well. Mark what you have there, and then you are going to be adding half of an inch for your ease allowance. Now what you have for your dart intake here, measure it. Yeah, I have 1 inch, so I'm going to be placing the 1 inch back. Now go to your hip line or your blazer length line, whichever applies to you. So go to your hip line, divide your hip measurement into 4, and then you want to add half of an inch for ease allowance. So because I added 1 inch to the back part, I'm also adding 1 inch to this. So you don't have to add 1 inch. Remember, half inch is fine, except your client does not want the lower part. Your clients want the lower part to be very free on her. So that is what my clients want in this case. So whatever you have on your hip line is what you are going to be putting on your blazer length line. So the next thing now is to determine where your break point is. So the break point is where your blazer is going to fold. You know that part where your collar will fold, your blazer will fold at the front. So that point is the break point. So for me, I'm going to be making it the underbust part. So I'm just going to extend the underbust line here. So the my break point is going to be at the underbust line. So now what you are going to do now is to determine this part, this front part. I'm not going to be using the whole of these 5 inches for the overlap part. So this space here is the part that is going to overlap the double breasted parts where you are going to have your buttons. So this is the part. So now to determine how much you are going to be leaving for that, you are going to be using your bust span measurement. So divide your bust span measurement into two. So what you have is what you are going to be using for the spacing for this overlap parts, this extension. That's what you are going to be using for this extension. So my client's bust span measurement is 8 inches. So divided by 2 is 4 inches. So I'm going to be using 4 inches for this extension. So when you use half of your bust span measurements, you realize that the blazer is going to be very firm and the overlap will not extend to where it's not supposed to. It's going to be ending directly at your dart line, and so that's going to be give your blazer a very good grip. You understand what I mean? So if your bust span measurement is 6 inches, so that means you're going to divide that into two. So you're going to be using 3 inches for your extension. So just follow your bust span measurement. So now the next thing you want to do is to bring the center back and then take the measurement of the neck part. So watch the way I'm taking the measurement of the neckline. So what I have here is 3 3/4. So now I'm going to place that 3 3/4 at the neck part here. I'm going to be using it to extend the neck upward. So this is going to serve as the collar extension. So I'm not going to place it straight like this. I'm going to be bending it. I'm going to make sure it is slant. So that way it's going to be sitting well on my neckline and it will be able to fold. So place the 3 3/4 of an inch like this and then connect it, extend it from the neckline upward like this. So I just want to reconnect this with my ruler. So just extend it like this. So what you are going to do next is come to this neckline here. So now take 1/4 of an inch away towards your shoulder line. So this is what I'm doing. I'm taking 1/4 of an inch away. I'm not using the tip of my tape because of the iron that is there. It's not allowing me to see the 1/4 inches mark. So what I'm doing here is taking 1/4 of an inch away and then go upward and take 1/2 of an inch like this. So now connect this 1/2 inch to this 1/4 of an inch. So this will be the new neck extension line that we are going to be using. So just connect it like this. So that means that we are going to be cancelling the previous one that we have here. So we are not going to be making use of this one anymore. So the next thing you want to do now is from this neckline now, from this 1/4 of an inch, connect it to your break point just like this. So make sure if you have a longer ruler, you want to make use of it. So my ruler is not long enough, so I'm just going to do my best to make sure that it connects. So that is why I'm just doing it gradually like this. So make sure to connect it from that 1/4 of an inch to your break point. So this is going to be it. So the next thing you want to do now is to determine how wide you want your collar to be. So for me, I'm going to be using 3 1/2 inches. You can decide to use something wider than that if you want your collar to be wider, and if you want your collar to be shorter, use it. But note that I'm bending my tape. I'm not making it straight. It is slanty as well. So you also want to make sure that this is slanty so that your collar can sit well on your neck. So you can see the way it is slanty. Now I'm going to take this my curve and connect from that point to my break point like this. So you also want to connect this way. So this is it for the front part of the blazer. This is what it looks like. I remember that we did not add any seam allowance. We've not added any seam allowance to this pattern. We only added our dart allowance and ease allowance. So ease allowance is not the same thing as seam. Ease is for it to be free a bit, and seam allowance is the allowance that you sew inside while making your dress. So we are going to be adding that allowance on the fabric. So this is what it looks like. This is the side front, and this is the center front. So I'm going to be uploading the sewing tutorial, and I'm going to see you